everyone. My name is Keely Patterson of O'Farrell Financial. I'm a partner and advisor at our firm. I would like to welcome everybody to the Leeds Grenville-Thousand Islands Rideau Lakes Candidates Debate 2025. I would like to introduce our partner for this evening's event, Chris Wiltshire, Board President from the Rideau St. Lawrence Real Estate Board, to say a few words. Welcome, Chris.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the 2025 Brockville District Chamber of Commerce Provincial All Candidates Forum. I'm Chris Wiltshire, the 2025 President of the Rideau St. Lawrence Real Estate Board. The Rideau St. Lawrence Real Estate Board represents over 260 realtor members covering the United Counties of Leeds Grenville, over to Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry, and up to Lanark County. We live and work where you live. We are your neighbors and your community volunteers. We are your friends and family. Buying or selling a home is often one of the biggest transactions of your life. Using a local realtor is the best way to ensure your transaction is completed competently and professionally. We've got your back. When you're making the biggest financial decision in your life, we have the training, experience, and negotiation know-how to help you avoid any costly mistakes. Working with a local realtor means you can be confident that you are getting advice from someone with an intimate knowledge of your local housing market and community. We know the comparable prices, neighborhood trends, market conditions, local issues, and more. Housing affordability and supply have been a big part of the conversation over the last few years, and this election, the issues are no different. We've been hearing loud and clear from across our region and across the country that people are concerned that homeownership is slipping out of reach. We see firsthand the frustration that today's housing market brings to those desperately seeking to achieve that dream of homeownership. Lack of housing supply is driving up the cost of buying a home beyond the reach of many Canadians. More housing supply can lower prices, reduce stress, and give buyers a fighting chance. More housing supply means more opportunity. The Rideau St. Lawrence Real Estate Board will continue to stand with our community and chamber business partners to advocate for greater affordability and reducing barriers that are keeping homeownership out of reach in Eastern Ontario. Thank you to the Brockville District Chamber of Commerce for organizing this event, and to our candidates here today for your willingness to serve our community to make a difference. To the candidates here with us tonight, thank you so much for your passion and dedication to your communities. It takes an incredible amount of courage to step forward and put your name on a ballot, especially in today's polarizing political world. We recognize and appreciate the sacrifices made by you and your families during the next few weeks of this campaign. Thank you again. And it's a great pleasure to hand it over to Keely. Thanks, Keely.
Ontario stands at a critical juncture as we navigate an evolving economic landscape, marked by shifting global dynamics, technological advancements, and urgent threats to the well-being of our communities. The choices we make today will define our province's future. First, I would like to introduce our panelists. They will be asking questions that are based on input we have had from chamber members plus the community. Your panelists for tonight are Peggy Matheson, O'Farrell Financial; Melissa Heineman, United Way, Leeds and Grenville; and Kelly Britnell, Brockville Tourism. I would like now to introduce our candidates for this evening. On my closest to me, we'll start this end, Chris Wilson, Democrat Party. Next to him is Lorna Jean Edmonds, Liberal Party. Next to her, Steve Clark, Conservative Party. And for the Green Party, Fiona Jagger. I would like to review the format for tonight's activities. Our panelists will be presenting questions to each candidate. The lead candidate will have 2 minutes to respond. When the candidate is finished, or when the 2-minute time limit is up, other candidates will each have 1 minute to give a rebuttal. At the end of both or all of their rebuttals, the original candidate will have an opportunity to state their final position within a 1-minute time frame. We will be rotating these questions. I'll be introducing each one through the candidates in turn. Candidates pre-selected their position for questions before coming on stage this evening. I would like now to introduce our very important timekeepers for this evening. Please welcome, and I'm sure they'll stand with their signage, Pam Robertson, Executive Director for our Brockville and District Chamber of Commerce. Victoria Redicott, she is our Business Development and Membership Services, and Kathy Paquette, our Accountant for our team. Here are some ground rules for everyone to follow. No heckling. 2 political signs per candidate are allowed, one being hung in front of them at the table and one for their literature table in the lobby. Time limits will be strictly enforced. Candidates will see the green paddle when 30 seconds are left, the yellow paddle when 10 seconds are left, and the stop sign when they will be done. Any candidate exceeding their time will be, their microphone will be turned off, and I will be stepping in. Candidates, are you all ready to proceed with this evening's debate? All right, let's get started. Before we begin with our questions, each candidate is invited to give a 2-minute opening statement. According to the draw held earlier before this debate, I would like to invite Chris to begin his opening statement.
Thank you very much, and thank you for everybody for coming and watching the debate. It's really appreciated. I don't get a lot of opportunity to talk to you guys, so thanks for coming. My story is why I'm running for office is I was sick with Lyme disease for many years. During that time, my wife was also diagnosed with MS. We suffered for the greater part of a decade, and the healthcare industry let us down. It wasn't there for us, and we fell through the cracks. I had to go to the States and pay out of pocket for treatment. And growing up as a Canadian, I prided myself in healthcare, and when I first needed it, it wasn't there for me. When I was at my darkest moments, I made a deal with the powers that be that if I ever survived this ordeal, that I would get to work for my community to make things better and ensure no other patients fall through the cracks like we did. I ran in 2022 just to get a feeling for how things work, and it was a great experience. Shortly after that, my wife passed away from complications with the COVID vaccine and her underlying health conditions. So I'm here again in 2025. I'm motivated to be the voice of people who don't have a voice, patients, vulnerable people in our community, homeless people, people struggling with disabilities, and aging people in our communities that don't have the energy or the ability to advocate for themselves. I'm here for you. My business is I'm in finance and risk management. I've been doing that for 20 years. I run a small business that has 4 employees, and I'm super focused, motivated, competent, honest, and I'm gonna get to work solving the issues facing our community. If you trust me with your vote, you can count on me. I will not let you down. Thank you.
Next, Lorna Jean, your 2 minutes.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming. Bonjour tout le monde. C'est un grand plaisir d'être ici avec vous. Puis je voudrais que tu me soutiennes. The reason why I want you to, because I'm somebody who has a long history as an executive in higher education. I was a healthcare administrator both in Kingston and Kingston Psychiatric Hospital And then I worked at Queen's extensively to actually establish a national program in primary healthcare and community-based rehabilitation. I've worked over 30 years internationally in international relations. In the last 7 years, when I ended my career, I was the Vice Provost for Global Affairs and International Studies at Ohio University. I bring a wealth of experience, new role as your candidate, and I hope you're MPP. Why am I doing this, and why did I get in? Because the problem for me, what I've witnessed over the last 5 years in particular, is that under the current leader, the candidate at the moment, we have seen an intentional dismantling of our health, education, social service, and municipal infrastructure province-wide and in our own backyard. This has also been accomplished at the same time when our economy has stalled. So we have a double-edged sword. We're not moving forward, and coupled with that, we have this dismantling of some of the services that we hold dear to us as Ontario and Canadian citizens. But we do have a way forward, and I believe it is the Ontario Liberal Party, and I believe it is the leader that we have. Bonnie Crombie is a powerhouse strategist, politician, business leader, who's put together with all of us an incredible platform that's not just for Toronto. In fact, it's for all of Ontario. It's for us in rural Ontario. You look at her platforms that we've developed together, it's significant. I live in rural Ontario, and I came to this role because I want to mobilize resources here in ways that have not happened in the past. Happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorna Jing. Next, I would like to invite Steve Clark for his 2-minute opening.
Thanks, Keely. My name's Steve Clark. I'm the Ontario PC candidate for this riding. I'm also have been your MPP for a number of years previous to that. I was a mayor, worked here with local media, live in this community, grew up in this community, and really believe in the opportunities that are available to us. First, want to thank the Chamber of Commerce for putting on this all candidates meeting. I also want to thank the Rideau St. Lawrence Real Estate Board for not just being a sponsor tonight, but helping people realize the dream of homeownership. And I appreciate your participation along with all the members of the panel tonight. I've been a frequent speaker at chamber meetings, both in opposition and in government. And when I made those speeches in opposition, I would almost all the time talk about the Chamber of Commerce, the Ontario Chamber of Commerce survey, where they talked about the confidence level in terms of business in our province. And it wasn't that great. Under the previous government, we lost 350,000 manufacturing jobs, and companies were reluctant to invest. In fact, American economic developers would come across the border trying to get our businesses to move there because we had challenges under the previous government with our hydro rates. Under our government, we've created over 750,000 jobs. We're building things in Ontario again. And we've seen the investment right here in Leeds Grenville-Thousand Islands and Real Lakes. 3M, Greenfield Global, Evonik, Invista, Leclerc. Can't let Donald Trump interfere in the progress that we've made. We've already had a business who is interested in coming here, not come here because of 2 words, Donald Trump. We need to protect Ontario. We need to have a government that is focused on ensuring that business climate remain confident.
Thank you, Steve. I would like now to welcome Fiona Jagger for her opening statement.
I'm here representing the party. Thanks, Brockville and District Chamber of Commerce. Thank you to the Brockville Arts Centre, to everyone who's come out here tonight. I'd also like to acknowledge that we are currently on the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee people. I'm a nurse with a background in mental health care and addictions. Now I teach at our local college here in Brockville. And my interest in being your candidate came from my experience as a nurse. I realized when I was delivering for frontline care to patients that the problems that they were facing required more than just nursing care. They required political solutions. They needed more housing. They needed more access to care. They needed more access to supports and to the social determinants of health. So that's what made me interested in being in politics at all. In the last few years, these crises that I've witnessed have only been deepening. 25% of people in this riding are without a family doctor. We're seeing our hospitals over capacity and understaffed. I'm sending my students into these situations and hearing back from them. We have crises in education, both in elementary and high schools, and a big crisis right now in our college sector that I'm in the middle of experiencing, and that's going to have long-reaching consequences for our youth and our communities. So I'm here tonight to stand up for a progressive, fiscally responsible vision of our shared future, and to provide an alternative to the lie that we need to invest in corporate wealth and line the pockets of billionaires in order to have a strong economy. Across the province, Ontario Greens are fighting for a fairer Ontario, and together we can make a difference.
Thank you, Fiona. Let's proceed with our questions. Our first question is from Peggy Matheson, and it's directed towards Chris Wilson. And one thing before we start, Peggy, sorry, if everybody can just lean in a little bit to your microphone.
Bring the mic forward.
It starts off a little low, so we just don't want to miss any of your words. Thank you so much. Peggy, go ahead.
The Brockville Food Bank serves 100 individuals daily, giving each family 5 days' worth of food monthly. With rising food prices, tariffs, and limited income support, we see more employed people. How will your government support all who need it?
That's me first, right? So food insecurity is a huge issue in our community. I recently met with Amanda Kay, the manager of the Brockville Food Bank, and she stressed to me the rising amount of visitors that they have at the food bank, and importantly, she stressed how many people were coming there that were employed. So it's something that we need to work really hard to address quickly. I never imagined growing up in Ontario that I would see my friends and neighbors literally starving and unable to afford food. So I think it starts with wages. I think we need to look at worker equity. And when society was functioning really well, workers, they would take home about 80% of the equity that they produce. So for every dollar you produce, you take home 80 cents. Over the years of neoliberal policies, that's being flipped. So workers, when they go to work and they produce value, they only take home 20% of the value. So the Ontario NDP is working hard to increase worker equity, increase wages across the board, not just minimum wages. And that'll go a long way to help with affordability for food and housing and everything. We also need to tackle the monopolistic grocery stores that we have in our province. We can't have large corporations colluding with each other and price fixing the basic necessities that we need to eat and survive. So the Ontario NDP is committed to working hard to increasing the competitiveness in our grocery stores and allowing food prices to come down. That's what I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Major? So I'm going to I think the single most important reason why we're facing food insecurity is the fact that the housing population, the addition of houses and affordable rent has diminished to such a stake that almost 40% of our population can't afford or spends almost 50% of their income on rent or a mortgage. And I have been to a food bank and I've heard from others where you're right. Some of these are middle-class people who are single, own their home, running 2 jobs, have a number of kids and find that they can't afford to feed them. Bonnie Crombie and the Ontario Liberal Party and my leadership here will aim to bring down in a significant way the cost of affordable housing. You might have looked at her platform that we've developed, and it's clear that first-time buyers, seniors, and nonprofit housing will have access to reduce their housing buying to almost by $200,000. We will see rent control. We will also see a tax reduction in the order of $1,000 a year. Thank you.
Steve?
Thanks for the question. I too have met with Amanda and have talked about the Feed Ontario recommendations to government. And I think one of the things that I've heard right from the first day I ran for office was actually a chamber debate in 2010 at BCI when we had all the candidates that were on the ballot at that all candidates meeting. And we talked about certainty around the minimum wage. For years, governments played politics with the minimum wage. And at the time, I sort of broke with the tradition from my party and talked about the fact that it should be geared towards the consumer price index. We've done that. But we also need to deliver a message to Donald Trump that Ontario agriculture is not the problem that a tariff needs to be in. We've basically got a wash with trade in terms of agriculture, and we need to have a strong message to him that food insecurity would only heighten with more tariffs.
Thank you, Steve. Fiona?
Thank you for this question. This is a really, really important issue. I take my nursing students on a walk through this area. We actually start in the parking lot here every year to see the services that are available for people struggling in this community, the food bank being one of them. So we've been hearing about those rising numbers. We also hear from the John Howard Society. We have a team walking at coldest event of the year with Youth Connect later this week. And really we need to, there needs to be many more services targeted in many different ways, but we do have a plan to build 2 million more homes across the province, including 60,000 supportive housing units with wraparound services and 250,000 new affordable nonprofit and co-op homes, as well as repairing the disrepaired co-op homes that are and non-for-profit homes that are already in existence. We also are going to address affordability by introducing strict anti-gouging and collusion laws for grocery corporations and lowering taxes for low and middle-income earners.
Thank you. Chris, you have the final word.
Yeah, thank you. So I just wanted to say I agree with Lorna that housing prices is impacting food security. So 59% of homeowners and 75% of renters are sacrificing basic needs in order to afford their rent and their mortgage. So that is a big problem. Another thing we can do towards a solution is increasing our local food production and sustainable agriculture so that we can grow more of our food here in Ontario. So the Ontario NDP is focused on preserving all of the farmland that we have available and not building prisons and not selling out the Greenbelt to private interests. Thank you.
Our second question is from Melissa Heineman, and it's directed towards LJ.
Ontario's charitable sector, including organizations like the YMCA, plays a vital role in providing services that support the health, well-being, and economic opportunities for millions across the province, including this region. Rising operational costs and inflation, however, are putting significant pressure on these organizations. How will your government ensure long-term funding stability, including inflationary adjustments, to sustain the vital work of community-based charities?
So, as I said at the beginning, under the current leadership, notwithstanding what others might think, we see across the board a significant dismantling of our social services, our NGOs, our health and education. This is not going to change under the seats. It will change under the Ontario Liberal Party, because what you see is a program that will reinvest and bring up the same standard that we had a decade ago, the programs and services that make our communities thrive. And this community is the same. I think we've lost a lot of services, and we need to bring it back. And I'm very committed to doing that, and we know how to do it. But it is time for you to really think about the leadership, and I am going to question the complete focus on Donald Trump. Unequivocally, our previous premier 100% supported the directions of Donald Trump. I lived in the United States during his tenure, his first tenure, and I can tell you things were bad then. Things are going to be very bad now. And if you're worried about our YMCA today, worry about it tomorrow, because we will lose more, we will not gain more. Under the Ontario Liberal Party, we will continue to invest and navigate through this challenge by allowing our business do business and we will invest in our social infrastructure so that kids get to have access to the recreational, cultural activities that allow us to thrive and grow as individuals. This is a critical time for you to really ask yourself, what kind of leadership do you want? Who can you trust to really deliver? I believe you can trust the Ontario Liberal Party, but we will earn it because we will show you that with the existing resources we will have, we won't build a $100 billion tunnel. We will invest in you, and we will do it together. Thank you.
Thank you, okay. Steve?
Yeah, I want to take the opportunity to thank Rob Adams and for that question about the Y. Charitable organizations like the Y are extremely important. Our government could have decided to not invest in community recreation and facilities like the Y, but we chose to go it alone. We chose to go it alone when we couldn't get a partnership at the federal level. So we've enhanced our Trillium grant program that the Y's taken advantage of. We've encouraged them to continue to apply under our new fund, and we're going to continue to build on that new fund. Deanna and I have been long supporters of the Y. We raised funds to give equal access to everyone, no matter what your fiscal arrangements were, and we want to continue to support charitable organizations that build upon that health of our young people.
Thank you, Steve. Fiona?
The Green Party wants to increase collaboration with communities and rely on the experts that are already here to serve their needs. We're going to increase funding for local libraries, community centers, neighborhood coalitions, knowing that these play an important role in creating community connections. We would also provide free and low-cost community hubs in schools and cover costs for free evening, weekend, and March break care, support municipalities to create infill green spaces in neighborhoods, creating healthy park spaces, amend zoning rules to allow for small businesses such as corner stores and cafes to open in residential neighborhoods, provide startup funding for community-owned food markets, and increase support for community gardens through land gifts and organizational.
Thank you, Fiona. Chris?
So community-based charities are very important to what goes on in our communities. A lot of the work of building communities is done by volunteers. One thing I wanted to mention is that just today it was announced that the John Howard Society has lost a significant portion of their funding that goes to support Connect Youth and vulnerable homeless youth in our community. I recently met with the Executive Director of Family and Children's Services of Leeds Grenville, and the tone of the meeting was desperate. There are children, the most vulnerable people in our community, going homeless when they don't need to. And just today, after that meeting, where the desperation was noticeable, this announcement came out that they're going to cut funding further. So we need additional funding for our community services. It's cheaper for us to fund these services that work with volunteers than it is for us to pay the cost directly. So also, it's really, really hard to find volunteers these days. I run a lot of volunteer initiatives myself. I am a volunteer. People are strapped for cash and they're not looking to volunteer.
LJ, you have the final word.
Okay. So I have to concur with Chris. What you've seen in this community and across the province, just serving our children, is a significant loss of resources. Some of these are legislative resources, and the only way that they can make their budget work is by cutting staff. And I have worked on a personal level, and I've met with the Children and Family Services. They are struggling. So if they're struggling, every other charitable organization in our riding is struggling as well. Because if the legislative group is, everybody is. And with all due respect, it's not just who you know and telling us who you know. It's what are you truly doing? What is the impact that we're having? We want to make a difference, and we will do that with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Our third question is from Kelly Britnell, and it's directed towards Steve Clark.
With the recent suspension of 55 programs at St. Lawrence College, our community in Leeds, Grenville-Thousand Islands, and Rideau Lakes faces immediate job losses and a shrinking local talent pool. As we prepare for an AI-driven economy, what concrete steps will you take within the first 30 days of your mandate to create and support sustainable, future-focused community college programs that prepare our workforce for the challenges of tomorrow?
Yeah, that's a great question. Obviously, AI is going to revolutionize businesses, whether it be agriculture, agri-food, manufacturing, really is going to be a game changer. In fact, I got an email from one of the business professors at the college. They reached out to me to ask for my support on having St. Lawrence College to be, Brockville campus to be an AI center of excellence. I told her I'm very excited about her prospects, and I want to, if I'm reelected on February 27th, I want to work with her and the college. As Mayor Wren said the other day in the newspaper, we used to have a community meeting quarterly with St. Lawrence College where they would have employers and have community groups sit down and talk about the state of the college. We haven't had that for a long time. I'm committed to ensuring that we explore this AI opportunity and the innovation center that it could provide by talking to our employers, by talking to young people who are already using AI, at the college, and to be able to build upon the success to not just ensure that those young people have a job, but also to get more young people to move to our riding. So, the college is in a bit of a challenge right now, and I think just like they used to refocus on job needs for 3 years, 5 years, and 10 years, we need to get back to that community conversation, and I think AI is going to be a huge opportunity for us. I've told the prof that I'm committed to it, and I hope that all the candidates are committed to it as well as an opportunity at SLC. Thank you.
Thank you. Fiona?
I'm feeling the consequences of this issue every day as I work in our local college, and what's happening right now to Ontario's colleges across Ontario is a tragedy and a travesty. Excellent people that have worked for their lifetime, that are committed to students and to programs, are being walked out the door. And the reason for this is chronic underfunding by the provincial government of our colleges. We have been underfunded. In 2021, we were $8,000 per student below the national average of college funding and undergoing a tuition freeze. So we were really between a rock and a hard place. If we don't reverse this through strategic policy and immediate changes to funding, we'll lose real gems in our community, and we'll lose opportunities for our local youth and skilled workers for our community business.
Chris?
So I agree the colleges and universities are underfunded. For a long time, they were subsidizing their funding with international students, which ended up not working out because the Conservative government made it possible for diploma mills to pop up and exploit these international students, so that program had to be canceled. I also wanted to talk about AI and robotics a little bit. So there's a lot of talk about AI, and it's something that I'm passionate about. I do insurance for technology companies, so I know a lot about it. Encouraging people to get into programming is probably the wrong thing to do. If you look at the statistics recently, the amount of people getting hired in that software developer role is falling off a cliff. So AI is going to be in control of the business owners, the capitalists, and they need less and less programmers in order to develop the AI further. It pretty much writes code itself. So we need to invest in our colleges, and we can use the tariff threat as a real good opportunity to invest in our colleges, retrain the workforce to things that we need.
LJ?
So with all due respect to the PC party, they had 7 years to build a campus life in our riding, and they didn't take advantage of that time. And as a result, we have a significant loss. We have a loss in talent, we have a loss in students, and it's going to impact on our local economy. We have to reinvest, and under the Ontario Liberal Party, we are going to bring back that campus life. We are going to bring the vibrancy that campus life offers you. It's students, it's employees, it's food eaters, it's a vibrant life, and it really will bring a robustness. But you had 7 years, and you didn't do anything. And so the key is bring back a party that is going to invest in this environment with a robust college that is going to go with the trends. AI is today, but there will be something else tomorrow. The best thing we can do is adopt with our business and social service community what we need here to fuel our economy locally that will feed us globally. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve, final word.
Yeah, thanks for that. I'm not going to take any lessons from ULJ. Your party closed Kempville campus. We brought back skilled trade jobs back there because they're needed in this community. I talked about it. The last two all candidates meetings right here on the stage. And yes, while we've provided colleges with an extra $1.3 billion through this transition, let's make no mistake. So don't take my word for it. I'll read a text that I got from Glenn Vogelbrecht from St. Lawrence College. At every possible opportunity, I point to the feds as the cause. So we can spin it however you want, but that model under the foreign students didn't work. We need to roll up our sleeves like we've done when the colleges had threats in the past, and we need to work together with our employers and make sure that we right-size that college and grow the college and make sure that there's more focused opportunities for employers right here in Leeds, Grenville-Thousand Islands, and Rideau Lakes. I'm committed to do that. I'm committed to work with SLC.
Thank you. Our fourth question is from Peggy Matheson, and it is directed towards Fiona Jagger.
What is your stance on reducing interprovincial trade barriers, and what steps will you take to promote freer trade between provinces?
Thank you for that question. So the Green Party does believe in reducing interprovincial barriers to trade, and partly as we are currently under the threat of tariffs from south of the border. I know our current government is calling for a strong mandate in order to address those threats. But the Green Party believes in a nonpartisan approach, that we need a nonpartisan task force to work together to address these threats. And I think we need to remember the danger of the places where Trump's interests and our current government's interests align, right? And that is in terms of supporting big corporations, supporting billionaires, supporting big business over regular people. So I personally don't trust giving the current government a strong mandate. I don't think that that's what we need in order to address the tariffs. What we need is parties that believe in working together in a nonpartisan way for the good of the people of Ontario. And part of that is interprovincial trade. We would also move to aggressively diversify our partners across the country, of course, but in other ways as well. Create a Protect Ontario Fund for businesses disproportionately impacted by tariffs. Create an investment tax credit to unlock business developments in Ontario, and develop a Buy Ontario strategy for public procurement, so we were buying more Ontario goods for Ontario people.
Thank you. Fiona. Chris?
Yeah, so the Ontario NDP is committed to leading the charge in breaking down interprovincial trade barriers. It's one of our main platform points when it comes to dealing with tariffs. But the NDP is taking an approach that none of the other parties are taking. We're going to look at it through a lens of focusing on the workers, the employees. So any funding that we provide to companies in order to save jobs, we're going to make sure that that fund is used to benefit the workers and not buy back shares in the company, pay shareholder dividends like happened during COVID and the 2008 crisis. We're going to be laser focused on protecting jobs, and we're going to bring unions to the table when negotiations happen. So we make sure that the workers, the actual people of Ontario, and not the large corporations and their shareholders benefit from our public dollars. Thank you.
Thank you. Elgin.
So, my experience through my career, as I'm sure you are as well, is that with every bad day or bad experience or fear, we create opportunities. And here we have a unique opportunity that we couldn't accomplish in the past that is now imposed on all of us across Canada. The role of government is to be an enabler, and sometimes we are a disabler. This is a very good example where we will be an enabler. But like my colleagues have said, I think it is about trust. And I think we know that this PC government is hard to trust in terms of even our US relations, but also just look at the Greenbelt example. Say no more. Are we going to be inclusive and do things behind the scenes, or are we going to engage all of us in the journey? Under the Ontario Liberal Party, we will engage you in the process, and we will do it with a transparent, accountable process, working with our colleagues across the country, because it is a wonderful opportunity for all of us to take advantage of current day realities. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve?
Yeah, I said it at the ag debate in Toledo. I'll say it again tonight. Breaking down interprovincial trade barriers is something that I think we're all going to agree. All parties are going to agree. All candidates in Leeds, Grenville-Thousand Islands, and Rideau Lakes are going to agree. Recently, Minister Bethan-Falvey and Minister Mulrooney, Finance Minister and the President of the Treasury Board, talked about some of the programs that we're going to have to expand. Obviously, with the threat of tariffs, the issue is when, not if, but we're going to need to have a very flexible response in terms of looking at some of the things that we rely on the United States for, that we're going to have to repatriate back here or deal with another province. The example I used the other night was we send 30,000 hogs a week into the U.S., but we also take processed pork back. So we're going to have more processing capacity, either in another province or right here in Ontario. Our platform has included funds to help.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Fiona, final word.
So yeah, a big part of what we need to do, I agree, is establish food processing infrastructure right here in Ontario, and we would establish a fund to support investments in Ontario-based companies in food processing facilities, which we have a dearth of in the province right now. And we'd also increase provincial investment in ag tech to support innovation in the food and farming sector, and tax incentives to local food and beverage manufacturers to purchase Ontario-grown food. Bring Ontario food in our province and in our country.
Thank you. So our fifth question is from Melissa Heineman, and it's directed towards Chris.
Given the ongoing economic uncertainty and the potential for a trade war with the U.S., which poses a severe risk to Ontario's economy, including key industries in Leeds and Grenville, Thousand Islands, and Rideau Lakes, what specific strategies will you implement to protect local businesses, workers, and exporters from the impact of tariffs and trade disruptions?
So I just want to start with saying the threat of tariffs is real, and it's something that we should be very concerned about. There's approximately 500,000 jobs in Ontario that are under threat. So it's something that the Ontario NDP is taking very seriously. We're going to partner with Ontario employers and provide direct support to find new supply chains and new export markets, whether it's domestic in Canada or internationally around the world. We're going to support the auto sector and bridge any interruption in production and preserve Canadian jobs. We're going to, like we just talked about, break down interprovincial trade barriers so that we can trade amongst other provinces more effectively. But again, the biggest difference between the NDP and the other party is that we're going to look at all this through a lens of the workers. We want to make sure that any public dollars spent are spent to save workers' jobs and protect workers' lives, and not pad the pockets of corporate shareholders. We're also going to launch a Buy Ontario promotional campaign to encourage the public to buy Ontario, and we're going to direct public procurement to do what they can to purchase locally also. And we're also going to bring municipalities to the table. Municipalities are wanting regulations changed so that they can more effectively purchase local products, and I think that's a great idea. And we're going to join forces with the federal government to negotiate a federal provincial income assistance program to make sure that anybody that actually does lose their job is supported and they don't lose their livelihood. But I do think the tariffs are a real big opportunity for Ontario. It's something that we can use to save our colleges, our universities. We can retrain a workforce, and we can use them to build the infrastructure that Ontario needs. Green energy. We need more houses. We need more long-term care facilities, more schools, and more homes.
LJ.
So the key in supporting our local community is, of course, as you say, we got to maintain and build back our infrastructure. We also have to let the feds do their job, because it's the feds that negotiate these tariffs, not us. It is not giving a false sense of security by our current candidate premier is not good. It's not healthy, and it just does us wrong. Because what the other thing is happening is business is already changing. We're already changing. You just had to put up the threat. We're responding. People are. But what the government will do is we will support you by enabling you as businesses to do what you need to do, tariffs or no tariffs, and supporting those who are affected by the tariffs with concrete programs like we've done in the past, we will do in the future. You have a government that believes in you and will invest in you, but you have to make sure that we have the right people at the table negotiating our future, because we need the United States. They are our major trading partners, even here.
Thank you. Steve?
I think the government needs to do a number of things. We talked about breaking down interprovincial trade barriers. I do agree with Chris that there has to be a worker lens as well in terms of the Skills Development Fund, more money in the Better Jobs Fund, as well to advocate to the feds about expanding worker protections. We also need to make sure that we put more money in for employment transition. We've got a number of funds that I think we need to expand upon. The Trade Impacted Community Program, which would help municipalities that are impacted. The Ontario Made Manufacturing grant as well, which we're going to expand so that we can help transition some of the manufacturers and also repatriate some of the processing that we don't have right now. So I think it's a broad perspective that the government needs to do for existing businesses, potentially new businesses, and workers.
Thank you. Fiona.
So as we've already said, we would take a nonpartisan approach to be the strongest we could at the negotiating table, and of course protect our workers and people who were needing new investments in order to be able to move forward as old industries change and have to take new tax. We would help to build new supply chains, break down the barriers to interprovincial trade, diversified our trade partners, and the other piece is investing in the green economy in Ontario so that we were creating good green jobs. So an Invest in Ontario strategy would mean creating more jobs and prosperity by making Ontario a global leader in the $2 trillion green economy, and could create hundreds and thousands of new jobs, for example, by retrofitting 40% of existing homes and workplaces to net zero by 2035. We would give 60,000 people skills and experiences to work in the green economy through a year of free college tuition, and also create a fund to support green tech startups.
Chris, you have the final word.
So I just, all great comments from all the candidates up here, and I just wanted to talk about trust and, who you can trust to do what they say they're going to do. The Conservatives and the Liberal governments have been given their chance in the past to fix these issues, and they haven't been able to. It's time for me and the Ontario NDP to actually implement real change. Thank you.
Thank you. Our sixth question is from Kelly Britnell to LJ.
Successful arts, culture, and sport industry is a key attraction to any area. What would you do to further enhance this area to ensure residents and newcomers have a vibrant and enriching community in which to live?
So, I have to agree that the cultural dynamics of any community is what makes us who we are. And this is a riding that is just full of art, discovery, and opportunities. And so, like we will do with all the other programs that we're investing in, there is a huge commitment to maintain and grow our culture in our riding. And I have my own personal vested interest in bringing that here, because I just know that that is what keeps people alive when we have so many other things facing us. But it does require leadership that believes in building a robust, cultural, dynamic community as well as your economic and social services. What you will see with the Ontario Liberal Party is every facet of our life, we're going to work with you to build and grow and diversify in ways that you haven't experienced before. Because tourism, people coming here to live, whether you're a physician, a nurse, or somebody who's working at one of our plants, they want to have a community that they can join, and that's our culture. You will see significant investments in this area, and I will bring those resources to our riding, because that's what will make us who we are. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve?
Well, little known fact, I've got a BA in Fine Arts from the University of Waterloo. A lot of people don't know that because I jumped out of university and became mayor. I've worked on a lot of opportunities to promote our area. Everybody who is in the legislature, no matter what political stripe, knows why Gord Brown changed the name to add Thousand Islands and Rideau Lakes. And that's because we live in one of the most beautiful ridings, if not the most beautiful riding in all of, not just Ontario, but in Canada. So one of the best programs that we've recently rolled out is the Rural Economic Development Program. We were just in Jones's Falls. The minister supported a program by the county that promotes businesses and individuals. I want it expanded to include arts and culture because our tourism destination is really going to be a great opportunity for us to move forward. So I want to build upon that success.
Thank you. Fiona?
In the leaders' debate a couple of nights ago, Doug Ford said, oh, we only cut a few programs, I'm paraphrasing, in Ontario universities. They were things that didn't matter, like basket weaving. Well, I'll tell you what was cut just recently was the entire fine arts department and the entire dramatic arts department at Brockville College here just down the road. This is a tragedy. These were wonderful departments that fueled all kinds of wonderful experiences for people in our communities. We also have the youth and the arts here. We have the Arts Centre that we're in today that puts on all kinds of local things. Arts, we do live in a beautiful riding, and arts are a really wonderful part of that. I know they enrich my life and my children's lives immensely. But if we want arts, which we do, right? We like to go to see music. We like to go to see these plays. We like to look at the paintings. We have to actually pay people fairly as well. And so one of the things that we would invest in is fair wages for gig workers, which is the majority of our arts community. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris?
Arts and culture is a big part of society. It makes life more enjoyable for people. It increases everybody's happiness. So I'm a big supporter of arts and culture, and unfortunately, like Fiona just mentioned, it is often on the chopping block because it's difficult to measure the GDP growth of arts and culture. But I wanted to just share that, what's the point of the economy and what's the point of measuring GDP if it's not going to benefit the lives of the people? People in Nordic countries where the richest people there are not as rich as the people in the U.S., they report higher levels of happiness than the very wealthy people in the U.S. And what's the point of money if it isn't to increase your happiness? So we need more arts and culture. We need more recreation facilities. There's recently a proposal for a sports dome in Kemptville. I really hope whoever wins this election supports that proposal. And you know what? There's a real need for an indoor pool in the area, not just Kemptville, but all the surrounding areas.
Thank you.
The aging population needs an indoor pool.
LJ, final word.
I completely agree with this, but I don't agree that the PC party has invested. In fact, I would agree that they've dismantled, in many respects, our access to education, arts, culture, and sports. And I don't see that changing. And I think that's the thing we need to keep in mind. Will it change with the PC party and the direction that they're going? It will change under the Ontario Liberal Party because we, as you said, it is a happiness factor and it is a health factor. And we need recreation support for our kids. We need recreation. If you want to bring people to this community, we've got to have resources. We will bring those resources, but we will do it with you. But we'll also just let it happen organically because we're going to reinvest in an economy that will grow. And when you have an economy that grows, you have an arts culture that also grows, and recreation and services, because there will people be here who will want demand for that service. So I look forward to that. This is the crown jewel. We're just missing a few jewels. Let's bring her back. Thank you.
Thank you. Our seventh question is from Peggy, directed towards Steve.
Taxation and incentives. Will you commit to keeping corporate taxes competitive? And what new incentives will you introduce to businesses?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Obviously, our government hasn't raised taxes in the entire time that we've been in government. In fact, we've worked hard to give people some of their hard-earned money back. Part of what we're dealing with this issue around tariffs is we're looking at opportunities to support workers and businesses. Some of the things that we've talked about are cash flow support for Ontario businesses through a 6-month deferral of provincially administered taxes on Ontario business. It would work out to about $10 billion. There's also payroll tax and premium relief for small businesses if and when the tariffs come forward. And as well, we need to look at all sectors. We've decided as a government that spring and fall, like clockwork, we're going to have a red tape reduction bill to help with the regulatory burden that our small businesses have. But, make no mistake, Premier Ford is not the type of leader that would raise taxes. At the same time, we're always looking for opportunities to help small business. And we've proven with our large amount of business programs, Chamber members have taken advantage of, that we're committed to listening and ensuring that we meet people's needs. Since Labor Day 2023, I've brought in 31 ministers to this riding. For the most part, we've toured a variety of not-for-profits, but we've also had a number of small business ministers come through with the express purpose of listening on what can we do to make life better for businesses and individuals in Leeds Grenville-Thousand, Rideau Lakes. Those were just a couple that we've talked about, but make no mistake, the government's focused on giving people money back, like their WSIB premiums, instead of overburdening with extra taxes.
Thank you. Fiona.
So the Green Party of Ontario knows that small businesses are a vibrant part of our communities that make our communities work, and we're interested in doing everything that we can to facilitate that, including undertaking a review of regulations in order to weed out red tape and costs that disproportionately affect small businesses. Also increasing the employer health tax exemption to $1.5 million for small businesses. Implementing a commercial renters bill of rights to protect small businesses from unexpected cost increases, ensuring business stability and continuity. We would work with insurance providers to develop affordable commercial insurance programs for small businesses, and improve opportunities for small businesses and nonprofits to work with local governments by decreasing financial and informational barriers.
Thank you. Chris.
So the Ontario NDP is not looking to raise taxes on anybody, the people, the corporations, but what we're looking to do is trim up waste in the government and trim up the spending on pet projects that only benefit private interests. Things like the beer store scandal, paying $1 billion estimated to get beer in the stores 1 year early, that's crazy. But we're going to stop the wasteful spending, and the amount of money that's just spent on lawsuits to defend their poor decisions would shock people if they knew how much it was. One thing we have to pay attention to is large U.S. corporations like Amazon and things like that setting up shop in our communities and shutting down our small businesses. That's less tax revenue for us. Amazon doesn't pay income taxes in Canada. So we need to make sure that that stops happening, because any taxes that small businesses don't pay, that gets the spending is similar. All that burden gets shifted onto the people.
Thank you. LJ?
So, moving forward at this current time, when I look at our riding, I don't believe that we have the businesses that we need. I don't think we have grown. I don't think we've diversified, and I don't think we took advantage of the post-pandemic shift of people moving out into the rural ridings. And we see that in every respect. And at the same time, we see a dismantling. So Our government is really interested in mobilizing resources, cutting taxes, creating incentives for businesses to come to our riding here and help you build a stronger services sector, a stronger tourism sector. But also with that, we have to have a strong health, education, and municipal infrastructure to support them. If we don't have the energy, if we don't have the waste and sewer treatments, if we don't have the infrastructure, the internet, companies won't come. That is the heart of our issues. Taxes to me are important, but the most important thing is to be open for business here. And right now, I don't believe we're open for business in the way that we should be. Thank you.
Steve? You have the final word.
You know, I think the Chamber can lead a really good discussion with other economic development groups. We have an economic development conference here in the riding every year, and it really brings together some great ideas. I would like to see the Chamber work with communities, because right now there are a number of communities that are looking at their made in Canada policies on leveraging contracts. We have $30 billion in annual provincial procurement, and that coupled with the $200 billion that we're spending on infrastructure projects, I think it would be a game changer if the Chamber could lead an opportunity for some of that provincial procurement to be distributed to Eastern Ontario. So that's a suggestion that I hope the Chamber takes up. I'm certainly committed to work with you if you decide to go in that direction. But it's a huge opportunity for us.
Thank you. Our 8th question is coming from Melissa, directed towards Fiona.
People are the driving force behind economic success. To support Ontario's economic competitiveness, it is essential to invest in post-secondary institutions and skills training systems that address labor shortages and prepare the workforce for the demands of a rapidly evolving economy. How will you address labor shortages and skills training to ensure businesses have acquired an access to qualified workforce?
Yeah, great question. Thank you. And again, my sector, so I'm glad I got this one. So yeah, I really value post-secondary education. That's the area that I work in. I teach new nurses, and I see these people coming not just into my program, but into other programs as well, really eager to keen to learn and to serve their communities. And we need to be there at that moment to serve their needs and make sure we're really giving them the opportunities that they need in order to become skilled workers in our communities. One thing that the Green Party would do is create tuition waivers in areas where we're seeing a lack of skilled workers, so nursing where there already is some tuition waivers, but also in areas like teaching. We would also change the OSAP program, reform the OSAP program to better support students and make secondary education more equitable. So we would immediately reverse the Ford government's cuts to OSAP by converting loans to grants for low and middle income students and eliminating interest charges on student debts. Many of the students who went into OSAP thinking that they were going to be in a loan/grant situation ended up in a pure loan situation with surprise debt, and many post-secondary and carrying debt as you leave post-secondary education is becoming the norm, which makes starting out in life with the cost of housing and just life in general right now even more difficult. We would also replace the faulty performance-based university funding model and restore the more stable and equitable enrollment-based funding model, and ensure consistent and fair labor standards and working conditions for all faculty, including contract faculty. We would remove wage constraints and pay equal wages for equal work. We would immediately increase per student university and college funding by 20% and commit to ongoing annual increases matching inflation. And we'd also modernize models for colleges.
Thank you.
Okay.
Chris.
So I'm an employer. I currently have 3 employees, and I'm looking for a 4th one, and the resumes coming in are not good. There's nobody applying that can do the job, so I'm directly affected by this. And I think it's a sort of a result of the lack of funding that our post-secondary education has seen over the years, and it's not just been the last 7 years of the Conservative government, it's been before that. So I think we need to really invest in our post-secondary and, again, just reinforcing the tariff response strategy. If we're going to spend money anyways to save jobs, we may as well save our schools at the same time. So investing in retraining people, NDP is big fans of proactive spending, so it saves us money in the long run. But we need more skilled tradespeople to support responsible resource extraction in Ontario. So we're going to defend against tariffs. We need to start using the precious minerals, the timber, the fresh water that we have, and we need workers to do that. And we also need to build more quickly green energy infrastructure. So there's a huge opportunity to save our schools.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lorna?
So a key element of growing our economy and social services is having a campus. And I know one thing that this riding is very interested in is reevaluating the need for this jail and reopening the opportunity of having a Kemptville campus again. And I want to point out that the reduction and the need for international students at our universities and colleges is largely in part with the Ford government freezing the ability to increase any costs or absorb any costs by the government. And as a result, we had to, and the colleges suffered the most by this because they had to recruit international students because there was no money to support our domestic students to have a half-decent education. And that's why we're seeing the closures today. It's the simple reason. You need a campus here, we need a campus here for our economy and social services to thrive and to bring a population here that will contribute to our culture and recreational diversity. Thank you.
Thanks. Steve?
Well, LJ, I've been on the campus. I was on the campus when your government closed it, and there were no skilled trade jobs. And Premier Ford was on the campus in October, shaking hands with students that we funded through the Skills Development Fund. The same fund that put jobs at 401 Electric. Barry Moss has been, I think he sat in that middle chair at one of these all candidates meetings and talked about the need for more skilled trades. Power Motive, I was in Athens one day and a mother came across County Road 42 to thank me for getting skilled trades back at Kemptville campus. I had a student shake my hand at the Leeds County plowing match in Forfar saying, thanks for getting me an education back on Kemptville campus. We need to build more skilled trades. We need to ensure that we add that $1 billion that we promised to make sure that we've got even more students there. But to say that there isn't a campus, there wasn't when you were in government, there is now that we're in government.
Fiona, you have the final word.
So this community is going to be seeing a real loss in a couple of years in terms of a lack of skilled workers with and places, communities across Ontario, with the number of programs that are shutting down right now. So this really is a time for us to rally together and to figure out how to create opportunities for our young people to end spending on big expensive projects like the rollout of beer and wine, like the tunnel, and invest it in the real people that are really going to serve our community.
Thank you. Our ninth question is from Kelly, directed towards Chris.
With the crisis currently occurring in the college system as a result of chronic underfunding from the provincial government, the recent IRCC restrictions to international student enrollment, and the risk of eliminating viable educational options in smaller communities, how do you plan to support and shift policy to prioritize proper funding of colleges? If you feel colleges are appropriately funded, can you discuss how your party intends to ensure training will continue for trades, business, arts, healthcare, and other vital jobs before the labor shortage reaches a critical point?
I feel like this is the same question over again, but yeah. So the colleges and universities are very important to the function of our society in the future, and I think it's important that we properly fund them. The Ontario NDP, and myself included, we believe heavily in proactive spending. So if we have to spend a little bit of money now to save lots of money in the future, that's something that we're going to do. The Conservative Party is good at doing the opposite. They're good at saving money in the short term. So we're going to use the tariff response plan to not only save jobs and pivot workers into industries where they're needed, but we're also going to use it to save our colleges and universities. I think it's a shame that the international student program became abused so much that we had to stop it. It was working fine, and that's something that maybe we can look towards re-implementing in the future. But students came here under false pretense, and they were exploited, and it just didn't work out for anybody. We need to lower tuition costs for students also, or people that want to be students. In this cost of living crisis that we're living through, people, we've already discussed, they can't afford food. They can't afford housing. Young kids are giving up on their future. They're giving up on having a family. They're just sitting at home and they're wondering, what are they going to do with the rest of their lives? And we're asking them to go into $50,000 of debt, $100,000 of debt before they even get a job. And they might not even get a job in their field. So we really need to lower tuition so that we're not saddling our future with debt they're unable to escape from. So that's important, and definitely, we do need more skilled trades. It's time to reshore manufacturing here in Ontario. We have a tremendous amount of resources in our province that are not being used. We need more workers to use those resources, process them in Ontario, and use them in Ontario to build the future that we want to see. Thank you.
Thank you. LJ.
So I think this, again, even though it's a repeat question, it's an excellent question, because with all due respect to the PC party, I do know that Kemptville campus closed, but he could have brought it back.
We did.
No, you did not. You didn't bring it back. We don't have a physical, a vibrant college environment in our community. That's what we need. We also need, and we will invest, we're going to invest about 40,000 students will be supported with internships. We have to create a hub, a link between a vibrant campus or campuses that links to our businesses and social services, and then offers students opportunities to work with you. That's what the Ontario Liberal Party will do. The other thing we'll do is we will bring in a strong innovation sector, maker spaces, areas that we can bring high school students so they'll choose to go to our campuses and stay here. It's a really critical piece to the story of bringing our population higher, creating an economy, and creating a social infrastructure that can serve all of our needs. We must have a vibrant campus here. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve.
Well, I'm not going to repeat the text I got from Glenn Vogelbrecht that clearly puts the situation on the federal government in terms of the foreign student. Let's move forward. The St. Lawrence College armed me in 2018 with a very good proposal about that nursing program, and I delivered on it. And I think, just as I said earlier tonight when the first question came forward, we need the college to get back to that old community council where we bring employers at the college, where we meet with college officials, identify the skills gap. I've talked about the skills training fund. We need to get an application in, and we need to start rebuilding St. Lawrence College. I've said that I'm going to roll up my sleeves and be an active participant, and I hope all the candidates on stage will do the same. We need to work together to build that college back up to meet the job needs of Leeds Grenville residents for the next 3, 5, 10 years and beyond.
Fiona.
Education isn't a luxury, it's a necessity, both for people and for our communities and for our workforce, and it should be available to the students in our community. My experience with healthcare has taught me that when you break a system by basically creating a situation where you push all of the good, experienced, valued, dedicated people out of jobs, they don't come back. So this isn't going to be an easy fix. Also, this government likes to underfund things and then blame the underfunded industries when everything collapses. I'm seeing that continue to happen with healthcare, and now I'm seeing it happen with education. Yes, we need to act immediately to modernize our funding system. I don't think we need to go back to old models. I think we need to move to new models, and we need to save what we have. Thanks.
Thank you. Final word? Chris.
Yeah, so I just want to go back to the fact of trust and who you guys trust to get the job done. and which party you trust. The Ontario NDP has not been given the chance in the last 30 years to prove that they're working for the people. And I'm excited to get that chance one of these days. I can see it coming. It's inevitable. We're going to get the chance because things are going to get hard enough for the people that they're going to look for an option, that people are working for you. In order to make change, once you get to Queen's Park, you have to be influential. You have to convince other people in your party, even across the party lines, to do what you think is right. In order to be influential, you have to be trustworthy, and you have to have a good strength of character. And I think in recent years, we've seen that the Conservatives are not trustworthy. Doug Ford lies to your face. Steve Clark, he had to resign his housing Minister of Housing because of the Greenbelt scandal, and he only resigned because he was forced to. Thank you.
Our last question tonight. We do have 17 altogether, but this is the last one, and we will be submitting all questions, correct, Pam, to the candidates for answer in some way, shape, or form. The last question is from Peggy, directed to LJ.
How do you think reducing interprovincial trade barriers would benefit local businesses and consumers? Are there specific industries in our province that you believe would thrive if interprovincial trade barriers were reduced?
Thank you. So, as I said earlier, with the tariffs coming in has released new opportunities for us to look inside our own country. And I believe our businesses are already doing that now, as are our investors. And yes, of course I do. You know, we have a large population across the country that we haven't been able to do business with, whether it's in the farming industry, whether it's in, Canarm or cable. Of course there's lots of opportunities. And it's for them to also come here. So what you will see is an environment where our party will be an enabler to create the incentives to invest in our communities, to get out there and have missions, to talk to people, build relationships, and bring business to our riding. But it just speaks to the fact that every time there is a change, there is an opportunity, and this is a unique opportunity that we will capitalize in. Our job as government is to open it for business. Our job for business is to allow them to do business, and I bet you we will see significant changes because of it. But we have to support them through the process. So if we have to cut taxes, if we have to cut our loans, we will do that. We've already said that for the small businesses, we will cut their loans to half of what it is already. We've already said to major industry that we will ensure that we help you navigate through the changes with the investments that you need to keep your company alive. But I do think it is something that we have to keep in mind that under the leadership, it is trust, because I don't know what our PC party will do, because past practice will be reflective of future practice, and I don't think past practice for fair negotiations is something that we have seen enough of from the PC party.
Thank you. Steve.
Yeah, so earlier I talked about the need to break down interprovincial trade barriers, so I do think it's a huge opportunity for all provinces, and who would have thought it would have been Donald Trump that would have forced provinces and territories to finally break down some of these trade barriers. I mentioned earlier about agriculture, and I do think because of the challenges around food inflation that Trump's tariffs would cause, and I mentioned the fact on the pork side that we send 30,000 hogs a week and we take back processed pork. I do think fruit and vegetables is another challenge where we export 87%, but we also bring some in. So I do think on the agriculture side, we've boosted risk management, we've boosted the WSIB to help give them a bit of a break. I think we really need to concentrate on that because we can't take a spike in the cost of food. It would be devastating for our communities. So we really need to work together with other provinces.
Fiona.
So in this case, I agree. As LJ and Steve said, we do need to break down interprovincial trade barriers, and that's a key part of our strategy for managing the threat south of the border right now. I do think agriculture is the natural industry that comes to mind. That's a good fit there, both in increasing trade of the actual goods between provinces, the fruits and vegetables, the beef, the pork, the milk, but also in terms of processing. So there may be times where it makes sense for provinces to share a processing facility. And so that's an area where we really could invest in as well. Thanks.
Chris.
I think a big thing we need to focus on when breaking down interprovincial trade barriers is fairness. So these trade barriers have been in place for a long time, and when we try to break them down, we want to do it fairly so that established businesses don't lose their livelihood and workers don't get affected. So first, we want to make sure it's fair. I think one example would be the beef industry. I think Alberta has pretty much a monopoly on the beef industry, so we'd benefit from that. But again, we have to do it fairly. We're all Canadians in the end. And I think we need to take a Team Canada approach to this. Team Canada would not privatize healthcare. Team Canada would not support Donald Trump like Doug Ford. Team Canada would come together and we'd negotiate fair deals that works for all of us. And that's what the Ontario NDP would do. Thank you.
LJ, last word.
So my job as your MPP is to serve you and to serve our province and our nation. And the thing about the interprovincial opportunities is we will capitalize on that and we will do it together. But I do believe that this is very much a critical time for us to realize that when you do negotiations, there are always concessions that need to be made. And the question is, who do you want? What leader do you want making your concessions for your dairy, your eggs? Don't I have 2 minutes? Sorry. Okay, my point being is that you've got to keep in mind that our current incumbent here and our leader did no negotiations for the jail that they established and we're going to replace the Kemptville community. They did no negotiations or consultation in terms of the MZOs that they implemented, and they did no consultation in terms of the Greenbelt. Who do you want helping you negotiate this next phase? In my view, it's Bonnie Crombie and myself.
Thank
We will
you.
serve you. Thank you.
We have now completed the questions for this event. The candidates will now close in the same order we opened. So Chris, we'll start with you to please give your 2-minute closing statement.
Thanks, Keely. So I want to talk a little bit about the future. We have already a little bit throughout the debate. Something that really bothers me about the issues that we're facing today is that they're the same issues that we faced in 2022. Nothing has improved. We spent 3 years, hundreds of billions of dollars, and we haven't barely even moved the needle on any of them. In fact, housing's got worse. In the coming years, we have the arrival of artificial intelligence, robotics, and we're going to see many labor industries have massive layoffs. We really need to figure out new ways for our government to generate revenue, and we'll need to find new ways to ensure the people of Ontario have the funds needed for basic necessities. These issues will make all these current issues pale in comparison, so we need to fix the issues quickly. The government is the only tool that the people have to fight back against large corporations that seek to extract all the value out of our communities. Our current government is working for those corporations. We need to elect honest, hardworking, competent, trustworthy members of our community to make decisions on behalf of the people. With that said, I want to thank everybody for their time and attention. I want to thank the Chamber of Commerce for setting up this important debate. I want to thank OREA for their sponsorship and helping this debate proceed. And I want to thank the moderators and the people asking the questions for all their time and effort. It's been a pleasure to be here and talk to you guys today. And thank you so much. Have a great night.
Thank you, Chris. LJ, would you please give your 2-minute closing statement?
Yes, I too want to thank everybody. This has been an interesting challenge. First time I've ever done this in this kind of format. But I think what I just want to remind people is we are here to serve you. And when I started door knocking in 2022, I never heard about these issues at all. When I door knocked in the last 6 months, all I hear about is the dismantling of our social infrastructure, and I don't see our Conservative Party dealing with it in ways that they could have because they're a majority government. But I also see, which gives me pause, is that you have a current leader going to Washington who has unequivocally stated, when I was working under the Trump regime, I would almost describe it, as somebody he supports 100%. And I can tell you, the American model is not what we want to have in Canada. The reason why we have such a great system in Canada is because we support our workers. We pay people. We respect you. We want you to have access to public health and social services and an education that prepares an innovation, talented, healthy population. That's not the American model. So I don't support Doug Ford leading us in the next phase. And you need to think about that. And you need to think strategically, because if you vote for the current TC candidate, you are voting for Doug Ford. And if you're voting for Doug Ford, you're voting for somebody who supports Donald Trump. And that's what gives me pause. I don't want that. If you support the Ontario Liberal Party, you will see a business community, you will see a social health and services community thrive through an accountable and responsible environment, and we will be fiscally responsible, and we will engage you, and we will do it together, as will I. I'm here to serve. I want to have a legacy where this community is stronger and more vibrant 4 years from now than it is today. We have a long way to go, but we do have the resources because we're not putting $100 billion into a tunnel. We're putting it into you. Thank you.
Steve, will you go ahead and give your 2-minute closing statement?
Thanks very much. I'm going to do a little different close. My name's Steve Clark. I've been your MPP since 2010. I'm asking for your support so that I continue to work hard and get results for Leeds Grenville-Thousand, and Rideau Lakes. I'm going to talk about healthcare. That's the elephant in the room. I know the other candidates had their 2 minutes. I'm going to talk about what I would do if you re-elect me on February 27th. First of all, LJ, you talked about the Kemptville Jail. Our Brockville Jail is built in 1842. It's 183 years old. We need to build a new Brockville Jail. On healthcare, I'm committed that the announcement we made for the extra $1.8 billion of the primary care action team with Dr. Jane Philpott, I will ensure that this includes bringing an urgent care center, an urgent care clinic to my riding to serve patients and to take pressure off our local emergency departments. We need a 24-hour clinic in this city, and I'm going to work hard to get it. I fought hard to be one of 4 communities in Ontario that has a Ministry of Labour pilot that's going to allow us to recruit up to 200 healthcare workers. So that's doctors, nurses, nurse practitioners, and PSWs. And we need to make sure we call all of our hospitals, all of our long-term care homes, all of our doctors' offices, and get some of those unrostered patients back with doctors. I'm committed, and the plan that I put forward has been endorsed by every one of the mayors in Leeds Grenville-Thousand, and Rideau Lakes. Many of them are here tonight. You can ask them yourselves if they agree with my plan to bring those 200 healthcare practitioners here. We've done a good job expanding the Learn and Stay program. We've got 2 new medical schools. We've got a lot of work that needs to get done. I've delivered MRIs in Brockville and Smiths Falls, CT scanner in Kemptville, and I'm going to continue to work to get those 5 long-term care homes built. 1's built, 2's under construction, 2 are going to be under construction. That's going to relieve the pressure of the ER.
And Fiona, would you please give your 2-minute closing statement?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you to the Labour Council. Thank you to the moderators. Thank you to the candidates for the lively debate and to everybody who came out today. First of all, I just think it's important with some of the rhetoric that we're hearing to use this platform I have here today to speak out loud my support for the 2S LGBTQA plus members of our community. And also, I want to voice that the Green Party of Ontario is committed to working with our First Nations peoples and communities and recognizes First Nations peoples' right to self-determination and seeks to establish true nation-to-nation relationships. These are difficult times in our communities. We have higher levels of inequity here in Canada than we've had ever before. So this year, the highest levels of inequity, the highest gaps between rich and poor. That's actually a terrible health indicator. It's a worse health indicator than whether or not what's the highest sort of like average income that you have in a society. And in Canada, Ontario has the most inequity. We have the biggest gaps. My other co-candidate here, Steve, was just talking about healthcare, but I really don't trust the current government's pass on healthcare at all. They're putting money into privatization. Increased funding to private surgical clinics, refusing to give a raise to nurses during a pandemic increases our reliance on agency nurses, which are way more expensive, but funnel money into agencies. So I also wanted to mention that the Green Party are committed to fiscal responsibility, but it's a fiscal responsibility that works for you, not big corporations. We have a fully costed platform, and we have a vision, and it's a vision that people are getting into, and it's growing throughout Ontario. So my challenge to you today is when you go to vote, vote for the Ontario that you really want. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we are now finished with the formal portion of our evening. We have excellent food for thought, so thank you, each candidate. I know our audience, both here and watching live through TV Cogeco, are better informed for the difficult choices that are before each of us as we go to the voting booth. Please remember to get out and vote on February 27th. If you need help with anything, please contact Elections Ontario or any of our local campaign offices. Thank you for your time, attention, and have a good night. Safe home.